So the Lens on Climate Change is a project that was initiated here at the Cooperative Institute of Research in Environmental Sciences at the CU campus. And it was really targeted to engaging middle and high school students in thinking about science in an alternative way, in producing a video about something that is locally relevant to them and how they see climate change playing out in their backyard and how it affects their life. And the way we designed the project was that we engaged teachers from BVSD, but also from other school districts across the state. The teachers were all really excited about this project because it's really a different way of teaching, and they said it was also a very different way of engaging with their students, making these videos and really having the students take the lead in learning science and developing science. And in terms of success stories, one of the ones that stuck with me was from Denver Public Schools. The teacher said the biggest thing they took away was that they learned how to follow through with a project, that you really need to finish things, even if it's not perfect. And so often the students were about to give up and just say, no, my drawing, my sketch is not good enough, or this is not good enough. But ultimately you have to just say, well, we have to finish this, and we just have to come to bring this to an end, and then you have an end product that you can show. So we'd like to thank all the students, mentors, and teachers for all the hard work they put into producing these films.
I'm Tad Pfeffer, and I'm a glaciologist. That's a geophysicist who studies glaciers, snow, and ice. This is right up against north and south Arapahoe Peak. There's a ridge connecting those two summits, and the Arapahoe Glacier is right up in that pass between the two of them.
I work for the City of Boulder, and my job title is the Water Resources Facilities Manager. I've been in the position for 26 years. In 2002, we melted a lot of ice off of that glacier. It was a really unusual year. It was a 300-year event, basically. We had very little precipitation that winter and a lot of heat in the summertime, and it really did take a lot of mass away from the glacier. We melted quite a bit of ice.
So what do you know about the glacier?
I don't.
About the Arapahoe Glacier?
Nothing.
Did you know that it's melting super fast every year?
No.
Did you know that it's right in Netherlands' backyard?
Right in what?
Netherlands' backyard?
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Did not.
What do you know about the Arapahoe Glacier?
That it's nearby and that's it.
You know it's right in Netherlands' backyard.
I didn't.
Nevaeh, did you know that there's such thing as an Arapahoe Glacier?
Yeah.
Know that it was really big in
Yes.
the turn of the century?
I've seen photos. It's pretty exciting
Yeah.
of how big it used to be, and now that it's sort of been no longer called a glacier, but a snowfield.
pay attention to the science and not the politics.
I think that it's really sad because it's such a beautiful glacier. So I think it's really sad that this may be the last generation to see the Arapahoe Glacier.
It's shocking. Environmental changes are shocking.
Within the beautiful state of Colorado, there are 4,800 square meters of glaciers. The Arapahoe Glacier, located near Nederland, is thousands of years old. This magnificent glacier has decreased from 340 meters squared to 116 meters squared. It is estimated that the glacier may disappear in as few as 65 years. Now, imagine that this cup, packed with snow, represents the Arapahoe Glacier. That is what the glacier looked like in 1900. Now let's fast forward to today, where it has lost 52% of its area. The Arapahoe Glacier is part of the Lakewood Reservoir and Silver Lake watershed, which provides Boulder with 40% of its water supply. This is what the glacier looks like today. The cup on the right shows the amount of area lost since 1900, while the cup on the left represents the area of Arapahoe Glacier remaining. What remains in the other cup is how much water is left for future consumption. We only have 48% left for us to use in the future. The area of the Arapahoe Glacier is the same as 1,230 school buses. The total area of mapped glaciers in Colorado is equivalent to 184,530 buses. The Arapahoe Glacier loses the equivalent of 100 school buses annually. The future of the Arapahoe Glacier is uncertain. Temperature changes could diminish all of our water sources over time. More severe droughts and increased evaporation could be part of the shifts occurring worldwide. We must protect the water sources of Colorado and ensure the future of water.
On Monday, September 9th, 2013, the rain began to fall. After 2 days of persistent rain, it was apparent that this was no ordinary rain event. Roads began to flood, and Boulder Creek and St. Vrain River began to rise. By Wednesday night, flash floods were issued for all those living near the creek as the rain continued to pour and the creek began to rise. The city of Boulder sounded alarms around 10 p.m. on Wednesday, warning people to stay away from the dangerously rushing creek and to seek higher ground. People living near the creek were ordered to evacuate. Under normal conditions, Boulder Creek typically flows at a rate between 100 and 300 cubic feet per second. During the flood, gauges near the creek recorded a flow rate of 5,000 cubic feet per second. That's equivalent to 37,500 gallons of water per second. The flood was caused by an upper air low-pressure system cut off from the jet stream just west of here, which caused it to stall over the flood area for days. Moisture in the air came from the tropical Pacific. These conditions allowed it to rain consistently and a lot over the course of a week.
Why did this result in a flood? So that's actually a really interesting question, because when we talk about flooding, we can talk about flash flooding that happens in minutes, and then huge river systems flooding that happen on weeks to month time scales. And in this event, we saw all of that happen. So while we sat here in Boulder and we had little thunderstorms and little small types of rain systems come through, we saw flash flooding happen right away, because it just rained so hard over such a short amount of time, there was no place for the water to go.
Emergency responders quickly became busy as the streets turned into waterways, and people needed rescuing from their vehicles and homes. Kevin Vranz from the Rocky Mountain Rescue Group tells us of his rescue experiences firsthand.
How many injuries did you respond to during and after the flood?
So during the flood, we only responded to one injury. We responded to many other patients that were just stranded but not injured, so we evacuated a lot of people. The one injury was of a person who had gotten trapped in the river and had crawled out of the river, and he was probably hypothermic and maybe had some other injuries as well. He was considered trauma red at the time, so we have 3 trauma levels: trauma green, trauma yellow, and trauma red. We talk about those on the radio so that everybody that's responding to the mission knows the level of injury, and they know whether they need to hurry up or they can go a little bit slower and more safe. But he was considered trauma red, so we had to get him out very quickly.
After the flood, people from Lyons and Boulder picked up garbage, appliances, electronics, and construction debris. Many homes, roads, and animal habitats were damaged. 20% of homes were destroyed because of heavy rainfall, which persisted for days. 6 people were reported dead. Many of the fatalities were from being captured and washed away by the rushing waters. 5 months later, people are still without their homes and hot water. Communities are working on rebuilding what the flood destroyed: their homes, roads, bridges, hiking trails, and animal habitats. One group in the Boulder community that has helped those affected by the flood get back on their feet is the Mudslingers. The Mudslingers are a group of volunteers who helped to clean up damaged houses after the flood. Many of the houses that they worked on had over 3 feet of mud in them. The group helped pump out the water out of the houses, tear out the rotting drywall, and remove mud from within the homes. They even helped homeowners take out waterlogged drugs.
What was the range of the most and least damaged house?
The most damaged houses we went into, a lot of them were just a total loss, and were ultimately condemned. We went into a lot of structures that were compromised, so like a wall might be ripped out, or there might be 8 feet of mud inside the house. We did our best to save property when we could, without obviously prioritizing property over our safety and the safety of our volunteers. And then we also went into houses that had like an inch of water in the basement. So it was a massive range.
That's a tricky question. So this flood in and of itself doesn't indicate anything about climate change. It is, however, consistent with what we would expect in a changing climate. So it's another small piece of evidence that we might be collecting, that when we look back in 100 years, this might be an event that adds to our understanding of climate change. But it wasn't unprecedented. We have seen big floods in Colorado before, so we can't say that this event was at all, for sure, impacted by climate change.
Even though one event, such as the Colorado flood, can't determine climate change, it may be possible that a changing climate may lead to more extreme events. More scientific research needs to be done to assess the consequences of changing climate. What remains a mystery is if we see more events like this one in our changing climate.
September 2013. Boulder is ravaged by an epic flood. How were residents affected? This is Flood Day Preppers. Meet George Waterman, a retired Special Forces operative and avid climate change believer.
Oh yes, I believe that the recent flood is due to climate change. In fact, I think the next flood is going to be much worse due to climate change. That's why I think it's imperative that we prepare to the highest level of efficiency. See, I was raised always checking my comrades' back and always checking our corners.
George's obsession with climate change borders on paranoia.
You can never be too prepared. I have a first aid kit in every room of the house, 300 cans of beans, 90 gallons of water, 1,000 batteries, a spare dog, 40 pounds of gummy bears. You never have enough gummy bears.
Now let's meet Sky Awa, a climate change denier and self-proclaimed pet psychologist.
So, I guess we're talking about this flood right now. Yeah, that kind of sucked. I mean, I was really excited when it started raining. I just built this new rain catchment system. So basically the idea was I got all these PVC pipes and put them together, and then it would just make like clean water. I'm not really sure the science behind it. I'm not really into science per se. Yeah, all these people throwing climate change around. You know, I don't really get the point. I mean, we've always had floods. We're always gonna have floods. Why put a label on it? Why say it was because of climate change? I mean, it's a flood, for gosh sakes. What's up with that?
Sky lives in ignorance, while George lives in fear. However, these are both extremes. Whether or not the flood was due to climate change, it is important to be adequately prepared.
Climate change as a phrase refers to any change over time and in the climate of the planet Earth. Climate change is used in a modern context often interchangeably with the phrase global warming. Both of those phrases are used to mean man's effect on the climate system through the burning of fossil fuels that produce greenhouse gases. As the climate warms, what we've already seen happening and what we expect to continue to see happening is that the snow melt is going to start earlier in the year. So that means that the snow is going to start running off into our streams earlier than we expected or experienced in the past, which can have a number of implications for things like growing food, growing crops, or providing water supplies for homes and businesses. In our region, agriculture is heavily dependent on snowpack. That's where irrigated agriculture in this region gets water supplies from streams that are basically coming out of snowmelt. So as the snow melts in the spring, it turns into stream flow, and those farmers who are using water to irrigate their crops are pulling directly from those streams. So the amount of snow is directly relevant to the ability of these farmers to get water for their crops.
In recent years, we've had, I think, a good microcosm of what we're likely to see in the future. We've had some of the wettest years and also some of the driest years in just a 3 or 4 year span. And obviously the massive flood this past year kind of fits into all of that. So on balance, it looks like we're having less water each year than the year before, but almost more significant than that might be the extreme variability. I think that most farmers feel the effects every day, and they recognize that something is happening. If you go out and talk to any farmer, they'll say, yeah, this is a long-term drought, there's extreme variability, and there's no controversy about that. They fall into at least 2 or 3 categories. So there's definitely a need for more investment into infrastructure, into drought-tolerant strains of plants. If we want to feed a growing world, we need to be open to investing in research in all different fields.
Between 1977 and 2006, the mean annual temperature in Colorado rose by 1 degree Celsius, and many climatologists agree that temperature will continue to rise. With a 2-degree increase, mean annual water runoff of Colorado streams will decrease by 4 to 12%, and that number surges to 21% with a 4-degree increase. As mean annual temperature rises, peak runoff shifts from June to May or April, which will act to reduce stream flow during the hottest and driest months, a time where water is already scarce. This will also limit the amount of water available for agriculture. The crops that would be most affected are some of the best ones. These thirsty, water-intensive crops include apples, melons, and potatoes. Imagine if we could no longer grow these healthy and delicious options. The threat increasing temperatures pose to our food and water supply shows the need to be proactive to adapt for and mitigate climate change. There is no one solution. If we are to ensure water and food security, we must change many of our old practices and incorporate new methods for a sustainable lifestyle. New agricultural techniques are being developed to use less water. Farmers are looking into aquaponics as a more sustainable production method, and there are many things the individual citizen can do, like use less fossil fuels. The best chance to ensure a sustainable future is for everyone to do their part, to find innovative ways to take better care of our planet.